Hi there, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to be showing you some scenes using Brusho watercolors, or you can use any watercolors. But first, here is a stamp set I'll be using, which is Penny Black's Into the Sky, these wonderful branches. And then I'm going to be using a cold press watercolor panel and a Luxe White card base. You can use hot press watercolor paper, but you would need watercolor paper for this, and the panel is just slightly smaller than the card base. But I'm going to set aside the card base. I have some masking fluid here. Here's Winsor Newton here, and then Nouveau masking fluid. My favorite though is this Pebeo drawing gum. It's just a masking fluid. I have in my little dampen dish a little bit of liquid soap, like a liquid detergent or like soft soap. And I have kind of a crummy little brush here because I don't want to use one of my good ones. I'm going to massage in some of that soap. I'm doing that so that the masking fluid doesn't stick to it when I go to wash it out. And I'm going to start out drawing just free draw style. I don't need, I can just take my time and draw a circle. This will be for my moon. I'm making sure that, it's good and covered, that I have enough masking fluid in on the whole circle. And then what I do is I start out with a small circle and then I just make it a little bit bigger and bigger, expanding it on the outside. Now I'm just splattering it, so that's going to create my snow. And I'm splattering that over the whole panel. Now you can naturally dry this, or like always, I'm in a hurry, so I'm going to dry it with my heat tool, but you do want to make sure that it gets very nice and dry before you continue to the next step. So now that it's dry to the touch, I'm going to take out my Brushos. Now you can see all the colors that are included in this kit. I have swatched them here, and you can just see that there's a few blues. I have a few extras there too. I'm going to use the yellow and the orange and a blue, just the three colors. And I'm going to take the panel, and I have the three colors in my masking fluid is dry, and I'm taking a brush with just clean water, and I drew the line where my snow will end. So anything below where my fingertips are on my left side that's holding the paper down, I want to make sure I get no water on. On the rest of it, I'm being very careful when I get to that line of the snow line, and I want to put a lot of water on there. Not completely drowned it, but I want it quite moist because I need to activate these dry watercolors. I love the intensity of these colors and its characteristics because you can get these little bursts of color. I'm using yellow here, and now I'm going to add a little bit of the orange right in the center, and I'm going to just use my brush a little bit to help move it along. And I'm going to add more water to it because that's what's going to cause it to mingle and to spread out. And I know it looks kind of crazy with it the way it is right now, but it'll all pull together, I promise you. And I'm just dabbing bits of water. Now I am brushed off the yellow and the orange, and I'm going to add more water. Blot off some of that yellow. I don't care that it goes up a little bit, but I want to blot a little bit of it. Now I'm putting a kind of a band of blue, and you can see the intensity of this color. And like I say, you can use just other watercolors you happen to have around. I just love this Brusho for the kind of bursts of color that they have and how intense it is. Now I'm just moving my paper around. I want it to mingle and to kind of spread on its own as much as it can. And you can do that by adding a little bit of water. I do this very carefully. You want to not rush through this process. You want to take a little bit of your time and just Go slowly. That which was just hard for me. Now make sure you don't get, when you're holding this paper down, down by the snow area, make sure you don't have any paint on your fingertips, because you don't want that to get into that. You want to keep that very white. And I just move this around by adding more water. Move the paper around to let it kind of drip down and then drip upward, and adding a little bit more of those crystals as I go along until I get it the way I like it. And I spread it with my brush. You know, my brush is there just to help spread it a little bit. And then I see that I just love how that kind of starts to drip down into the yellow. And then I have those bursts of blue going across where the moon is. I'll add some more of the blue. Now you can use any color scheme you like, and I'll show you after this some other color schemes that I used that are kind of exciting, just using these Brusho colors. I love these colors, these Brusho dry crystal watercolors. They're a lot of fun to use. And now I'm going to dry it, make sure it's really, really, really bone dry. So let's just continue to dry it until it's very dry, making sure that I keep my my fingers clean if I'm going to touch it down at the bottom. And now that it's super dry, I'm using a rubber eraser. Now you can just use your fingers and kind of rub off all of that masking fluid, but this eraser does a quick job of that. And you'll see that there's a link down below where I have a complete supply list. You'll see everything that I used here, including this eraser. I just took it off of that moon, and now I have this bright moon there, and I have instant snow because of my taking off all of that masking fluid. Now I'm going to just sprinkle on a little bit of yellow and a little bit of orange, tiny, tiny bit, onto my glass mat, and I'm activating it with a little bit of water, and I'm just going to go around the perimeter of the moon. I want just a little bit of interest in the moon. So you can see I did very, very little, and I did mix it with that orange. Now I've put this panel, it's bone dry, keep that in mind. And I'm putting it in the stamp positioner, and I am positioning this this stamp, making sure that my branches are upright, not tipping. And I've got some VersaFine black onyx ink. Love this ink. It's very crisp. It's waterproof, which is great for watercolor. And I'm just going to stamp it another time to get a really, really good impression. Now I'm going to move this over a little bit, and I'm very careful not to touch that black ink. It is a waterproof ink, so it has a long open time, and you can smudge it. And now I'm going to go kind of right at the top of the snow. And I'm very careful not to, because this still has ink on it, not to press it down until I've got it exactly where I want it. You can see I had still ink on there. Now I'll add some more and then stamp it. And then that is all there is to it, other than putting a sentiment on there. But first I'm going to dry this, because handling this, I want to make sure that this ink is all dry so I'm not smudging the black. That's really important, and I don't have it on my fingers. You know, wash off your fingers if you think that you have any kind of watercolor or that black ink on there, because you don't want to smudge all your beautiful work. Now I'm using a sentiment from Nature's Friends. It's a penny black. It's just peace and joy. Of course you can use any sentiment that you like, or no sentiment at all. I did another panel where I just couldn't bear to put a sentiment on it. I just liked it so much without it. But this one is a very subtle sentiment. And now I'm using some Connect liquid glue. I usually use double stick tape, except for using it with watercolor panels, especially cold press, because they kind of have a mind of their own and I want them to stick to my card base really well and not peel up. So I do use a liquid glue, kind of spread that out, and then I'm just positioning it. You can see that the card base is slightly bigger, so you have a tiny border there. And then that is all there is to it, and I am in love with this background. You can see it all pulls together once you put those branches in. Then I have the sentiment. Now I did one more panel. This one I used the Algerian crimson, and then I used kind of a bluish purple, a mixed blue and purple, tiny bit together, and used it for my sky. Did mask the moon, and I also masked for the snow, but I want more snow now, and I want it to cover some of these trees. These trees all came from Penny Black. I will put the links down below in the supply list. And I put a little tiny bunny rabbit. Isn't he cute? And here it is, all completed. That's just another way that you can use this make a scene. And then here is the one that we did before that we want to kind of revisit and look at it close up. And I'm in love with that one too. I think this is my favorite. And then I did one more, and this one is a Halloween one. I will do this one in detail in my next blog article, so stay tuned for that, where you can see all of the colors and you can see all the products that I used. But I wanted just to include it here so that you can see this is another way that you can do a scene that's very dramatic. But for this project that I demonstrated, I used Into the Sky by Penny Black, the Brusho watercolor crystals, and then of course VersaFine Black Onyx ink. It's just as simple as that. But you can see all the supply list and some close-ups and lots more inspiration by just clicking the link down below. It'll take you to our blog and to our website, and you can check out everything there. Thanks so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We would be over the moon. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.